Venusaur is the best of the Kanto trio, and I don't care what you say. He's such a good boy, and everyone should love him. For about a year and a half now, the topic of Venusaur in GSC UU has been brought up from time to time. Currently, Venusaur is in UUBL and not allowed in UU. Some people believe it should drop to UU though. Venusaur would not be broken in GSC UU. As a matter of fact, it probably wouldn't be that good. Yeah, cat's out of the bag, Venusaur would be pretty underwhelming. While Venusaur does have good stats and a good move pool, its typing is not a good one in this metagame. Venusaur would also face competition from the grass types currently in GSC UU. Venusaur would probably struggle if it was in GSC Underused. If that's the case, then why hasn't Venusaur been dropped? Why wasn't it in UU to begin with? There's a couple reasons, and I'll go over them as we move through the analysis. The main reason Venusaur is in UUBL is due to how UUBL functioned back in the day. Back around when ADV was the current generation, BL wasn't so much a UU ban list, but instead it was a list of Pokemon that were decent in OU that weren't OU caliber. It was basically the middle tier between OU and UU. While the UU mons were things you would never ever use in OU, BL mons were things you could occasionally use to good success. This is why GSC and ADV have such massive BL lists. GSC Venusaur was an example of something that was in BL for this reason. What's different about Venusaur though, is that it was in UU at one point. Up until August 2016, Venusaur along with Smeargle were tiered as UU on Smogon's GSC UU tier list. In 2016 though, Venusaur and Smeargle were moved up to BL, while Ampharos was dropped from BL to UU. This was done to match Pokemon Online's GSC Underused tier list. I don't have any information on how good Venusaur or Smeargle were back then though, considering Mount Silver and Pokemon Online are now defunct. Since then, when the people evaluate dropping GSC BL to UU, Venusaur is always one of, if not the single most brought up Pokemon. From a glance, it looks perfectly fine in UU. Let's go over why. Venusaur's biggest flaw in GSC UU is its typing. If you watch my Vileplume video, you would know Grass and Poison is not a good typing in this tier. It's weak to Flying, Ice, and worst of all Psychic, which are all very common attacking types. It does resist Water and Electric, but several users of these attacking types run moves that hit Venusaur super effectively. Surely Venusaur is a deadly sword stance sweeper though, right? It's decently fast, it has a decent attack stat, and it has access to Sludge Bomb and Earthquake, right? Well, it actually doesn't get Sludge Bomb, or Earthquake. This heavily hurts the viability of Sword Stance Venusaur, and means it's actually worse in the role compared to Victory Bell. Victory Bell isn't as bulky or fast, but its higher attack stat and access to Sludge Bomb make it more dangerous. Even Blossom gives it competition, since it isn't weak to Psychic and it learns Stun Spore. Venusaur does get growth, but a growth set would have some flaws. Pokemon like Mr. Mime, Gyarados, Haunter, Scyther and Dojo can outspeed it, tank attacks and threaten Venusaur. It's also unreliable at breaking Hypno and hates sleeping paralysis. Surely Venusaur can paralyze those foes with Stun Spore though, right? Well no, because Venusaur also lacks Stun Spore for some bizarre reason. This makes these Pokemon safe switch-ins to Venu, especially if they come in on a Synthesis. Venusaur's only way to paralyze foes is Body Slam, which is far less reliable and completely blanked by Haunter. Venusaur can sleep them, but you can only sleep one Pokemon, and the initial switch into Venusaur is frequently a Rest Talk user. Venusaur's final option would be a defensive set. Venusaur does have a variety of good defensive tools at its disposal, including Light Screen, Reflect, Roar, Leech Seed and Synthesis. Still though, Venusaur's typing leaves it with weaknesses to Flying and Psychic. Several Pokemon can also tank its Razor Leaf reasonably well. A screen set can be annoying to KO, but it doesn't make that much actual progress. It can't paralyze anything, and several Pokemon can tank Razor Leaf. It also gives Miracle Berry Scyther free setup. It would have massive moveslot syndrome too. It wants to use a bunch of moves at the Razor Leaf and Synthesis, but it's stuck having to choose between two. Venusaur also hates status, especially paralysis, since now Pokemon like Granbull and Piloswine are now faster than it. Venusaur would likely be a common switch into Lantern, Ampharos, Magneton and more, who all use Thunder, which can threaten a 30% paralysis rate. Aside from a few water and electric types, Venusaur doesn't have many great matchups. Poison just isn't a good defensive typing in this tier. You really need something good alongside it to be useful. Qwilfish is top tier with spikes, Haunter is top tier with normal immunity, good speed and useful moves, and Nidoqueen is good because of its offensive potential. You could argue that all these Pokemon hate their poison typing, and it makes them worse overall, except for maybe Qwilfish due to the toxic immunity. Venusaur's water and electric resistances are nice, but it still has several problems. Status bad, weaknesses bad, occasional lack of power bad, and more. Since this only is APP, and almost everything has a move that does reasonable damage to Venusaur, so it would likely be forced to spam the move and quickly run out of it. Overall, Venusaur wouldn't be broken in GSCUU. It probably wouldn't even be that good, honestly. Most of the roles it can fulfill could be done better by Pokemon like Lantern or Hypno. Venusaur would be difficult to fit onto teams, and I heavily doubt that it's broken. So if it's not broken, why hasn't it been freed? 2 reasons. The 2 primary reasons Venusaur hasn't been freed are A, GSC lower tiers are inactive, and B, Venusaur doesn't fix GSC underused problems. GSCUE only has around 10 people who actively play it, so making tiering shifts happen takes a long time, especially if it's dropping a Pokemon down and it's not unanimous. When Agility Pass was banned, that had been complained about for years, and the ban vote was close to unanimous. Dropping Venusaur, meanwhile, is not as unanimous. Policy-wise, it's more reasonable to ban something broken than drop something for the sake of dropping it. The reason the Venusaur drop isn't unanimous is because it doesn't fix GSC underused current problems. Venusaur just kinda adds another bulky grass type, which we already have Blossom and Jumpluff to do. Venusaur doesn't help much when fighting GSCU's most constricting Pokemon, Scyther, Mr. Mime, Gyarados, Hypno, Granbull, and more. It can beat Electrics reasonably well, but so can other Pokemon currently in the tier. Venusaur doesn't have many overwhelming advantages over these Pokemon too. Adding another bulky grass type would add another Pokemon that slows down the tier's pace, which you don't really want. Venusaur wouldn't be broken, but adding it wouldn't bring much value to the tier. It might just make things worse in all honesty. It doesn't address the tier's current issues and introduces another boring style Pokemon. If there's enough push to free Venusaur though, then I wouldn't mind it that much. At the moment though, we need a big push and support to make it happen, which we don't have that much of.